The Analects of Confucius, Sovereign Without a Crown. Translated from French. Without this fundamental key, the Analects, one cannot gain access to Chinese civilization, and whoever remained ignorant of that civilization could never attain anything more than a partial understanding of human experience. The history of thought offers few examples of an influence as far-reaching and as enduring as that of the venerable master Kong, or Confucius. If we are to judge his greatness by the deep mark he has imprinted upon all the peoples of East Asia, we may assuredly call him the greatest teacher the ages have ever produced. It is in his Analects that his ardent love of humanity and his sublime morality, drawn from the wellsprings of common sense, shine forth. It is there that his constant concern is manifest to restore to human nature that first lustre received from heaven, but dimmed by the shadows of ignorance. One will not be astonished, then, that the Jesuit fathers, who introduced him to Europe and made him admired there under the Latinized name of Confucius, conceived for him an enthusiasm equal to that of the Chinese. They saw in his Analects the pearls of China, or something of still greater price. 4.
Pretiosiora est cunctis opibus sapientia.
Wisdom is more precious than pearls, and they concluded that these teachings are not only good for the people of China, but that there are few Frenchmen who would not deem themselves very fortunate if they could put them into practice. Voltaire himself, won over, hung in his study a portrait of the Chinese sage, beneath which he set these 4 lines: "Sole wholesome interpreter of reason, without dazzling the world, enlightening minds, he spoke only as a sage and never as a prophet, yet he was believed, even in his own country." The self-evidence of right reason. Considered from the twofold standpoint of morality and politics, Confucius's doctrine bears comparison with that which Socrates was teaching at about the same time. Friends of reason, enemies of enthusiasm, Voltaire, Confucius and Socrates clothed ancient wisdom in that gentleness, that self-evidence, that calm capable of touching the roughest of minds. Never, perhaps, was the human mind more worthily represented than by these 2 men. Superior in their philosophy, they were no less so in their judgment. Thus they always knew how far one must go and where one must stop, and if, nevertheless, they strayed from the straight path, their good sense brought them back to it, wherein they hold a considerable advantage over many philosophers of our day, whose reasonings are so convoluted, so false, whose subtleties are so appalling, that they can scarcely understand themselves. The master said, "No one would think of going out except through the door." Why, then, do people seek to walk outside the way? One will regret, then, the opinion of Hegel, who, finding in the Analects none of those aberrations that he called philosophy, settled the matter with a dreadful word. It would have been better for Confucius's reputation had his work not been translated. This wholly Germanic contempt is all the more strange in that Germany possesses, with the Conversations of Goethe, a book eminently close to the Analects both in its serene beauty and in the living presence of a master. Let there be no mistake about it. To judge Confucius unworthy of translation is to reject reason itself, that inner truth, which is in the soul of all men, and which our philosopher ceaselessly consulted in order to guide all his words. Jean de La Brune. The way of the sage. Like so many other teachers of the human race, like the Buddha in India, like Zarathustra in Persia, Confucius was not a writer, but a master who left to his disciples the task of transcribing his teachings. Moreover, a stranger to grand speeches and to misplaced eloquence, he preferred to them a recollected attitude, like that of a musician bent over his instrument to draw from it the most beautiful melodies. He went so far at times as to sigh, "I would like to speak no more." To the disciples who were moved by his silences, he retorted with an almost cosmic majesty, "Does heaven speak? Yet the 4 seasons follow their course, yet the 100 creatures are born. Does heaven speak?" He humbly declared to whoever would hear him, "I transmit, I invent nothing, and I love antiquity." In reality, beneath the features of the scrupulous guardian there showed through a reformer. He did not content himself with preserving the rights,
理
knowledge,
智
the sense of humanity.
忍
He regenerated them, moralized them, and propagated them with a tragic devotion. Conscious that his mission is heavy, and his road long, he nevertheless took courage in the thought of fulfilling a true celestial mandate. King Wen is dead. Now, is it not I who am entrusted with the deposit of civilization? Had heaven sworn its ruin, Why would it have confided it to a mortal like me? And if heaven has decided to preserve this deposit, what have I to fear? The empire of virtue. A frequent word in the Analects is that of honorable man,
君子
which originally designated a gentleman of noble race and family, but to which Confucius gives a new meaning by replacing the aristocracy of blood with that of the heart. The man of quality is no longer defined by the birth he receives from the hands of chance, but by the moral elevation and the sensibility he acquires through study. Like the polar star, unmoving and central, he does not worry about going unnoticed, he seeks rather to do something noteworthy. The master said, "It is no misfortune to be misunderstood by men, but it is a misfortune to misunderstand them." Where will one find a fine or a maxim, a greater indifference toward glory and success? What matters, in the end, that Confucius remained, his whole life long, a sovereign without a crown. He has built an empire whose invisible frontiers extend to those of humanity.